Welcome back to Dome on the Range. I'm your host, Griffin Post. Got a special guest today, Amie Engerbretson, one of my favorite people, favorite skiers, Warren Miller entertainment star, climate advocate, sledder. If you've seen a ski movie or picked up a mag in the last decade, you've probably seen a photo or a clip of her. But the thing I like the most about Amie is her hustle. You don't get all that success without working really hard. And I think no matter what walk of life you come from, it's cool to see the hard work that goes into anybody's career that's passionate about what they do. And next to me, none other than Liger, Mr. Todd Laguerre, mystical creature himself. And yeah, this is the first couples episode, so we're gonna see how this goes.
I have to say, you now, Griffin, have been nicer to me than Todd's ever been, so I love being on this podcast.
All right out of the gate. Jeez. It was funny doing research about this podcast. I mean, we've known each other for 10,
At
15
least,
years.
yeah.
I was like, I know so much about Amie, and then I dug deeper and I kind of got more intimidated about interviewing you just because you've done so much interviewing. You're X Games host. You had your own podcast for years.
Yep.
Like, oh man, I need to kind of have my ducks in a row.
I was actually going to ask if it's intimidating having a former podcaster on your podcast as a new podcaster.
I can tell you're judging me right now, and I look forward to your notes later.
It's way more professional so far than my situation ever was. I can tell you that for sure.
I mean, yeah, you have a elk antler in front of you, an aloe plant.
It's called mise en scène.
Yeah.
I learned that in film school.
Amie was in charge of her own feng shui that she sourced from around my house.
No, I think that I am intimidated by how much research you did on me because I never did that much research. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is he finding on the internet?
I mean, the first question that came to mind.
I'm opening my beer though.
Oh. You didn't do the movie theater thing where you're like,
no, I wanted everybody to hear it.
Yeah,
I'm going to need this. You have like pages of research.
Well, yeah. What's your least favorite question? Was my first question.
My least favorite question to be asked in an interview or on a podcast?
Yes.
My least favorite question to be asked ever, which I get asked all the time, is so what's next? Because it's what everybody, like you're doing an interview about something you've just done and you're literally still doing it. And everybody's like, so what's next? Like, what's your next idea? What's happening next? I'm like, can we just be stoked for me right now still?
Yeah. So such just a canned question. It's like, so you got any big trips planned this year?
How many days a winter do you ski? I have no idea. Too many to count.
Well, it's good.
Sorry to everybody who asked me how many days winter I ski, but I don't know.
Those are natural questions.
I need to just start making up
honest.
like 220, and they'd be like, "That's not possible."
Doesn't like your Oura Ring or something capture that data these days?
Probably. AI could probably tell me how many days a winter I ski.
Yeah.
Well, on a more serious note, I am going to dive right into the hard-hitting questions. Tell us about your semi-professional swing dancing career growing up.
It was the best. It's the best era of my life, I think. No, I was a dancer growing up just in general. Like I hardly even like ski raced. Like I skied a lot growing up, but I basically, as soon as ski racing got kind of serious, I got really serious about ballet and I chose ballet over ski racing, much to my dad's bummedness, I guess, as you would say. So he wanted a little athlete and a ski racer, and I was like, I want to be a ballerina. And through the course of dancing, I danced all different disciplines: ballet, jazz, modern, lyrical, interpretive, musical theater, blah blah blah. And I found ballroom swing dancing. There was this swing dancing group in Truckee, North Tahoe area called Razzmatazz. And fun fact, Michelle Parker was also on Razzmatazz.
Were you dance buddies?
We were not. We were there slightly different years. Like I think we did a couple shows together, but she was like earlier Razzmatazz. I came in like right. I think she went back to skiing rather than swing dancing and sequins. But if you know both of us now, that tracks. But yeah, started doing this. I was in this swing dancing group, and the coolest part about it was the teacher was this beautiful, amazing dancer, Puerto Rican woman who needed a swing dance partner. And my dad joined the crew and became like the lead teacher's dance partner. So we did all of the swing dancing together, and we danced at Disneyland is like our biggest claim to fame. And I got to like go backstage at Disneyland and like meet all the princesses, and I danced with Tweedledee or Tweedledum. I don't remember.
And were you like at the age where you thought it was the real princess?
No, I was at the age where I thought when I grew up I wanted to be the real princess. I was probably like 15 when we danced at Disneyland. But anyways, we danced all over. We performed everywhere, and then my dad and I went on to like teach swing dancing at swing dancing seminars. There's these big swing dancing conventions, which you probably didn't know, where
I did not know that.
like people gather in like convention halls, and all these teachers come and they teach seminars. And so my dad and I would teach like aerial specialized seminars. So my dad and I specialize in doing all the tricks, like the flips and the back flips and handstands and weird stuff. And so we've taught at like seminars in Vegas, and what's that weird town that's like south of Vegas that's like a Vegas offshoot? Starts with an H. Henderson?
Henderson.
Yeah, but like in LA. Yeah. So yeah, swing dancing.
You guys still kind of have it too.
We can still do it. We've been kicked out of the Cowboy Bar here in Jackson twice for doing inverts.
Are you like 86 from the Cowboy?
No. So I did the movie a couple years back called Boots Over Brim, where I combined Western dancing and skiing.
Obvious fit.
Because everybody wanted to see that, which I loved doing. It was like the most fun project I've ever done. But the name Boots Over Brim came because this guy, Zeppelin Europe, is who directed the film. It was his idea because he had been dancing with my dad and I at the Cowboy. And we had been there once before, and we were just dancing, and we threw a backflip, and the bouncer was on us right away and said, "Hey, you guys, out. Like, no boots over the brim, out." And it wasn't like, don't do any more backflips, leave the dance floor. It's like, get out of the bar. And so the rule is no cowgirl boots over the brim of the cowboy hat. And so we went back, and we were there with Zeppelin and I think Drew Peterson. We were ready to leave, and we were like, let's see if they mean it. And we just like threw a backflip, and just immediately, bam, you're out, like out of the bar. No boots over brim, leave. And it's like, there's no warning. Like,
you're like, sorry, I'm so good at dancing.
Yeah. But I get it, because you start doing like drunk inverts and it becomes like a huge problem. So I've definitely been swung around some dance floors by some cowboys that I do not want to backflip me. So,
well, it gets pretty busy on that dance floor at times.
Yeah, you could just knock someone out.
Yeah.
I get it. But yeah, so.
Yeah, the cowboy dance floor can be a bit of a mess.
Yeah, it's not a place for inverts. You got to go to a real dancing bar for that. But yes, swing dancing, all ballroom. Actually, I did all ballroom for a while. I kind of like know the basics in basically every ballroom discipline except for tango. So
I so want to just digress into like swing dancing and this offshoot, but we should probably keep it skiing oriented.
Well, I can tell you that this relates to my number one life goal, which most people who know me know this.
I actually think that we might have a question that relates to that from good friend McKenna Peterson.
I love McKenna.
Who was so kind
BFF.
to the stipulations of the question were like story prompt, embarrassing story, but not like overtly embarrassing.
She has a lot of those.
That's nice of you.
So, all right, welcome McKenna Peterson.
Hey, Amy, McKenna here. I would love for you to talk about your quest toward becoming a C-list celebrity and what lifelong goal that will allow you to accomplish.
I love this. Okay, so I have to correct her. I don't want to become a C-list celebrity. I want to become like a D or E-list celebrity. So like pretty far down, like nobody's really ever actually heard of you, but enough of a celebrity to get on Dancing with the Stars, in which I would hide or downplay my past as a somewhat once in a while paid ballroom dancer, dance at Disneyland, no big deal.
Like, I'm just a ski bum. I've never set foot on
and then
floor.
win, right? And it's like, I feel like I would.
The dark horse.
Yeah.
But you want to win? I thought it was about getting on the show.
Well, when you get eliminated, you have to leave the show. So if I win, I get to do the most dances.
Okay.
And it's A, about dancing, but B, it's mostly about like these fringe costumes they get to wear are just mind blowing. And I heard they spray tan on your abs.
Wow.
For everybody?
I mean, I think so. I think if you want them.
I told her that, Bushy got on the thing with the
Skating with the Stars. No,
No,
diving.
he did the diving.
Johnny
thing.
Mosley did Skating with the Stars.
And I think he won. Didn't he win?
I think he had to win, but nobody else had like ever jumped into water on that show.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, maybe. But
And he could do like triple gainers.
he's kind of an inspiration coming from that space.
Yeah.
Succeeding.
They've had some like skiers, snowboarders, like Jamie Anderson was on Dancing with the Stars. She's like pretty famous though. She like won the Olympics.
We can get you there, I think,
My thing is like,
Yeah.
what if I like announce for the Olympics or something? It's like maybe, I don't know. So I got to do something to get like at
I think
least
you're
E or D level celebrity.
I think you're there. I think you could be on the show.
Or you just announce
Now.
you're on the show, and then the producers have no choice but to put you on the show.
I've told everybody I am on the show. Yes, no. People are always like, what are your lifelong goals for your ski career? I'm like, oh, Dancing with the Stars. Duh. I want to be on season 28 or whatever they're on.
Yeah, it seems like a natural pivot. Yeah, just moving on to your, world beyond dancing. You're this second generation pro skier. Your dad, pro skier out of Tahoe, kind of like the original, class of pro skiers.
Mhm.
What was life like growing up in your household? I think people romanticize that idea of like, oh, you grew up in Tahoe and
Yeah.
you get to ski every day. This is amazing. But I mean, your dad it really seems like a hustler, and he was
Yeah.
grinding it out as well on the pro ski circuit long before it was really a thing.
Yeah, my dad was definitely on like the first wave of like the pro skiers as we know them today. He grew up in Northern Idaho, saw Hot Dog the movie, dropped out of college and moved to
Smart.
Tahoe to compete on the mogul circuit at the time was like how you did it. And he was really young at the time, and he was in the first 2 MSP movies. So like definitely like at the beginning of that whole era. He was kind of he's a little bit younger than Scott Schmidt and like Tom Day and like that crew. Like they were, I guess, technically the first pro skiers, but he was kind of the first like wave of the modern pro skier with like films. And he said like going to SIA, the old, ski convention, his first contracts, like it would just be race contracts, and the team manager would just like cross out first place and write cover, cross out second place and write like spread, like for getting published in a magazine, because that's like kind of what they had at the time.
Yeah, and they'd like fax it over. Maybe like
Yeah,
mail
well,
it.
he has a funny story of like negotiating at some point in his career between Smith and Scott, and they were both still in Sun Valley. So he would just walk across the street. Like he would walk
Yes, amazing.
to negotiate his contracts or whatever. So I think in some ways it was like a golden era, right? Like he would, every month he'd have like 5 to 10 images in powder, like now all of us are like, I got 1 image in powder in my entire career. I feel amazing. But I think it's a lot less glamorous than you think, because my dad was 21 when I was born. So I think his whole ski career took a turn when he had a baby, because that doesn't help. And he was trying to like make ends meet. He was like a janitor when I was born, like working multiple jobs. A bunch of my, like for a while, one of my bedrooms, before I remember, apparently was like a corner of like the kitchen where he just like put a couch across the corner, and like that was my area. And I remember one house I do remember, because my dad was like a typical, 25, 26-year-old ski bum trying to be a pro skier, not making tons of money, had a bunch of roommates, and like my room was the laundry closet, or the laundry room. And I didn't really like know any different. And I think that when people are like, wow, how did you become a pro skier? I'm like, well, I was like growing up in Tahoe in the 90s and early 2000s, like that was the place to be. Everybody was a pro skier, like my dad, all his friends, and my dad was becoming like a filmer and photographer. And it was just like the family business. Like we're just inundated it. Like we growing up, run to the mailbox to get the powder magazine of that month. And we're flipping through the pages, looking at the names and who, it just like it wasn't like special or unique. That was just like my
Way of
life.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was also the way of life of a lot of people around me, like my dad's whole circuit. So I think that that's almost probably why it was easy for me to like not even be that obsessed with it. Because I started doing photo shoots when I was literally 2 years old. I was like the first time I was on the cover of the Palisades, formerly Squaw Valley brochure. And I would do photo shoots like at a young age, like, and back then we'd have to wear like white turtlenecks, like turned down, and our jackets open with our goggles around our necks so you could see the sponsors, and like do the little like 90s turns, which now Todd tries to like unteach me how to ski like that. I was taught to wrap my knees,
can
which
ski however
apparently
you
is
want.
called A-framing to ski racers. But I was raised as a ski model.
You can ski
so-
however you want.
I have to digress for a second. So when your dad first met Todd, another pro skier, was he like cool or were like shit?
Both? Probably.
I don't know. Your dad has always been welcoming.
The thing
I
is,
have felt.
I had some ex-boyfriends that were like the tech guy that got super rich and like now has private jets. And dad kind of steered me away from that. So if dad has any qualms about my,
It's because they were going to take you away from Truckee, probably.
yeah, my fiance, Griff.
I know. I don't know if we want to like go into that story or not. Can't digress too much into the couples interview. You are the
Yes.
Yes.
you are the guest.
But Todd and I are recently engaged as of the recording of this podcast. So it's the big news. But yes, I think when dad's now he's stuck with it, I guess, almost. Basically.
Your dad's awesome. He's been great to me as long as I've known him.
But I think my dad, I just growing up with him as a pro skier, I also got to like see the realities of being a pro skier that he faced, and that like he was always the guy. He did have it harder because he had me. So he couldn't just be a ski bum. He had to make money. So he had to make some sacrifices in his career where I think he got to a point where like he could keep trying to like, skim by and film with MSP, or he got this opportunity to be the skier on like a TV show that like paid, and it wasn't as cool and it wasn't as glamorous, but like he had to make money because he had a daughter. And I think that like also he went on to become a filmer and photographer, starting in the ski space and then expanded out into like the general action sports. And now he's like filmed movies and he does all kinds of stuff, but he had to make money and he had to make hard choices. But he was always a guy that was like a really good skier, but not very good at like promoting himself or good at the business side. Yeah. Wasn't like a super narcissist. No, but he just wasn't good at like playing a game. He thought that like just being a good skier would be enough. And there was a lot of people in the Tahoe world in the 90s and early 2000s that were the same. And so I feel like I also got to see that there's actually a job to being a professional skier, not just an obsession with skiing.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like from an early age, you had that the non-glamorous side of it.
Yeah.
Front and center.
Yeah. And that like, I also saw that like his ski career afforded him quite a bit of heartbreak too, and disappointment. Like it wasn't this glamorous, glorious thing where he was just off literally living the dream. Like so much of it was also like disappointment and losing opportunities and knee injuries and the realities of like not really being able to make a living and all that stuff.
And you weren't on the fast track, so to speak, become a pro skier. You, did photo shoots, but then went to college.
Yeah. I didn't really want to be a pro skier. It's almost like when you grow up somewhere like Tahoe, you're not like, that's not like the cool thing to say you want to be when you grow up because it's like what everybody says,
Like, I want to go into tech.
I wanted to get out of the small town I was raised in. I didn't know that like the small town I was raised in is the coolest town in the world. And I had this crazy, amazing growing up. I was just the same jaded teenager that jaded teenagers are wherever they are. And I wanted to go into business and be like this badass businesswoman. And I just kind of wanted to get out of the small town and see the world, live in a city. And that's what I did. I didn't ever want to be a pro skier. And that's why I didn't like didn't really want to race when like free skiing started coming on the scene. I wasn't that interested in like competing. And I don't know. I was dancing also too. I danced all through college as well. I was super motivated on that front.
Paid for college with swing dancing.
I did not. Believe it or not, I got an academic scholarship, Griffin. Can you believe that?
I believe it.
It was to U of A, so that's a pretty big caveat, but
Still a scholarship.
Yeah.
On that note, we actually have another guest question from none other than your dad,
Mr. Ski Cam Guy himself.
Mr. Ski Cam Guy.
Hi, Amy. This is Dad. And I do have a question. I'm wondering when you actually decided to pursue the pro ski career. I know you called me like halfway through your senior year of college, but I wondered how long it took to make that decision and what drove that. I know you were a passionate skier and a very good skier, but it still surprised me when you chose to chase that for a career.
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like, so I graduated high school, started college at University of Arizona, transferred after 2 years to Columbia College in Chicago, which is an art school, not associated with Columbia University. To be
You
clear.
don't have to say that.
I know, but then people think I'm like something I'm not. So, and so I lived through college. I lived in Arizona. I did a semester in Paris, and I lived in Chicago. So like very different than Tahoe or mountain towns. And there was no skiing around. I never skied in college, but I spent every single break I had going back to ski. Like, I think it was just one of those things I didn't realize what I had and what I loved until it was gone. Like, skiing wasn't like something my family did. Skiing was who my family was. It was who we were. Like, we were, and so there was no separation there to where I like didn't even realize that skiing was like something I really loved, right? Like, it was so much a part of me I didn't even know I loved it.
Yeah, it's just a way of life. Like,
Yeah, like
this is what we do.
It's just what we do. Yeah, like I it's weird to say that, I think, because again, it was a pretty bizarre, unique upbringing. So then when I had that taken away, like I wasn't skiing anymore, I think that's when I was like, wait, I love skiing.
The real world's
The real
not as
world's
fun.
cool, but Chicago's totally fine, and I could be done. You know, like Chicago's a great city for a small town girl because it was so friendly and easy. But like, I kind of was like, but it's so flat, and you drive forever, and there's never anything changes, and I don't know. I started like not seeing like the glamour of the future I thought I saw for myself was like waning. I really missed Tahoe. I missed skiing, and I think also part of it was I tried really hard with dance. Like I had a lot of tenacity and like drive. Like at University of Arizona, I auditioned for the dance major 8 times and got 8 rejection letters. I eventually got in as a minor in modern, which is not what I wanted. But like I just tried so hard in dance, and in a small town as a dancer, like being a good performer and a hard worker will get you far. And then you go into the real world, and if you're a good performer and a hard worker, but you don't have the lines, you don't have the turnout, you don't have all these like weird natural talents for dance, you don't make it. And I kind of realized I was like, well, I do have kind of a lot more natural talent for skiing than I do for dance. Like, what if I tried to work as hard at skiing as I've done at dance? Like, I like it just as much. Like, it's the second thing I like to do most. And I'm certainly more naturally like talented at it than I was as a dancer.
Yeah, and that tenacity that you learn from like pursuing any sport that you're passionate about, that like translates to
Yeah.
all walks of life.
It also set me up for a career of disappointment. No, just kidding.
Oh, okay. Tell us about the name of we heard Razzmatazz earlier, but you also were like a hip hop group that has a fun name or
This was
something?
the best part of college. I was in an all-girls hip-hop dance crew in college called Scratch. And we used to go to hip-hop dance battles. And I used to like actually throw my neck out like on the regular from like aggressive hair whipping. And we had this amazing dance where back then, all the girls would like cut the necks out of their t-shirts. Do you guys remember this?
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
like,
you bring it back.
Yeah. We had this dance where we had a long sleeve shirt that we had cut the neck out of, and we danced our shirt into a halter top. Like, that's what I learned in college.
You like dance so hard you changed your
No, it was
shirt,
like
or
in
just,
the
like-
choreography to like move the shirt around. It was like shirt choreography.
You should relearn that.
I really should.
So
There's
you'd have,
videos
like-
on the internet somewhere.
You'd have like dance battles where you'd like get served.
Kinda. They would be these like kind of official dance battles, and we'd do our makeup like all crazy, and we'd have our crew. So we were Scratch, obviously, and our lead was, God, this woman was the most amazing dancer. She was so sassy, and it was just like sexy, sassy women's hip hop. Like, I don't. It was wild. It was so fun. It was like the most fun part of college.
I mean, that sounds amazing. And like taking that fuel, like as you said, for maybe not having the most natural gifts for dance, but taking that energy and like pouring it into skiing. Because I mean, a lot of parallels, niche sport. I feel like that most obvious one is like the risk.
Yeah.
As far as, I mean, skiing's unique in terms of the danger you like expose yourself to, the uncertainty. I mean, we go on and on about this. But talking to your dad last night, he was curious about how you'd handle the risk when you decided you wanted to be a
Well, I
pro
wasn't a
skier.
very like daring kid. Like I wasn't like a danger seeking, daring kid or young adult, really. Like I wasn't a danger adverse kid, but I wasn't like, it wasn't really my like MO. And so I think he was like, yeah, but what if you have to like do something scary kind of? And
Yeah.
I think he was like, it's funny because when it's something I didn't really to be honest, when I said I wanted to like move home and try to get sponsored and ski a little, like I thought it would be like a 2-year kind of transition to see like what I ended up wanting to do, just because I assumed that a ski career wouldn't be feasible, wouldn't work. I had seen how hard it was for so many people in my community, my dad included, to really make a ski career work. So I was like, okay, I'll try. I'll do a couple competitions and like take a couple photos and see how it goes. But I didn't think it was something I was going to do forever. But I wanted to like try. I was like, hey, you like love this thing. You have some natural ability. What if you just give it a shot? And I think my dad, when I told him, was stoked. Like most parents would be like, absolutely not. You're graduating college and you want to move home with me and be a ski bum. Most parents would be like, wah, wah. And my dad was like, yes. But I think he was also very worried because he was like, oh God, like, does she even have what it takes? You know, like he didn't know. He knew I was a good skier, but he knew, and he's told me, he's like, I don't know if you're going to be able to like handle risk or even be able to even like push yourself the way you need to like be a good skier.
And I think that's hard to like appreciate until you're in that situation where, you know, you watch a ski film and you're like, oh, that looks really fun, powder, like bluebird. But when you're on top of something, it's a blind blind rollover. Cameras are on, there's this pressure. It's a different mental state than I think people appreciate always.
I think for me though, I didn't have like experience in like huge terrain or Alaska, but I've been doing like photo shoots and that pressure, like the performance pressure, my whole life. Like I knew that game. Like I'd been doing that, and I knew that like you had to make it happen while people were watching, and you didn't always know what the snow was going to be. And like I'd done that part. And I also, like I said earlier, like I also knew the work of it, not just like, oh, I love skiing so much, I just want to ski all the time, so I want to be a pro skier. I was like, I love the feeling when we used to shoot with Hank DeVries all the time. And I love the feeling when Dad and Hank and I are out and we're talking and we're collaborating and we're working, and then like how excited we all get when like something works. Because even the first couple years, what was the timing? I think even the first couple years I moved back in with my dad, maybe not, maybe he had already gotten a digital camera, but I remember shooting ski photos on film and stuff. So it was even higher stakes then because people were like spending money to take photos of you.
Yeah, Dad's pissed. He
Yeah.
just had to spend
And we'd have
another
to go.
75 cents.
He had like the light table and the loop and the slides and, you know.
Was it a lot of like critique? Like, well, it's pretty much a good photo,
Except-
but
oh,
your
yeah.
arm is
100%.
in the wrong
It still
spot.
is. It still is. Like, yeah, but I think that's why I got good at it. Cause like at first it was Hank telling us exactly how it needed to be. And then it became my dad once he started shooting, just being really critical. And my dad's such a good skier, especially like for camera. Like I find he's able to like communicate what you need to do really well too. So he was able to like coach me, but it was always like, yes, lots of critiques. And like, I mean, the funniest is like when I was a kid and we were doing like the 90s like kid photo shoots, he would literally ski behind me yelling, turn, smile, because everybody's like, how do you smile so much when you ski? And I'm like, it was literally.
Could you imagine skiing next to your dad and he's just yelling, turn, smile, turn, smile. Like, what is this guy doing?
He's creating a little pro skier monster, apparently.
Was he like rolling out the red carpet as far as, his connections within the industry and whatnot? Or was it like, no, you want this, you got to earn it?
Like to a point, like he was like, I'll help you and we'll shoot photos and like, I'll introduce you to people I know, but he wasn't ever, it's weird because like something changed like 5-8 years ago where he like turned into this very proud, like stage mom type figure where he's like so proud of me, but that wasn't who he was when I was a kid. Like he was always like harder on me than anybody else, like any of my friends. And he would always like make me, I don't know, he just didn't like dole out praise very easily. And I think when it came to me wanting to try to be a pro skier, he would like take me out and like test me on things and like take me scary places and like see how I did. Like, and I think when it came to like his connections, like he was happy to help in a way, but like my first sponsors just came from, he would be like, here's the name of the local rep of this ski company or whatever. You go. He wasn't like, hey, so-and-so, my daughter, Amie, is amazing. But like, he didn't do anything like that. He was just like, because I think it's also like, he didn't do that for himself either, like he wasn't like that when he was a pro skier. But he helped me get good at skiing and get photos, which is helpful. Like when I'm trying to like go get sponsored, I can be like, hey, look, this is what I look like skiing or whatever. I have on this marketing material for the resort.
I was on a cover when I was 2 years old. No big deal.
I did when I was a kid. We didn't do this as much like when I was like out of college coming back. When I was a kid, I went to SIA a couple of times with him, again, the big sports, like winter sports convention. And I had a little section in the back of his portfolio because back then he would bring like a leather bound portfolio with all of his like magazine and photos and stuff like that. And I had like a little section in the back.
Pour a glass of scotch and like, go through the photos.
But from that, I knew like the first time it was still SIA. I think it was in Denver the first time I went. Like I got my first sponsor was Chris Tiller. He was the local Solomon rep, gave me a pair of skis, boots, a pair of poles. I was like, good luck. Like, and then I think maybe later in that season, I got connected with the local sessions rep and got them to give me, I think they gave me 2 ski outfits. And so I was like, damn, I've made it. And also at this time, I think I just got Instagram. So like Instagram wasn't part of it yet. Like none of us knew what that was or what to use it for. It wasn't like, all of this was happening like pre-social media. So you had to like get into it a different way. And I remember my dad's portfolio. So like, I remember the first time I went to SIA, I had like a athlete one sheet with like a short bio and a bunch of photos. And it was on my iPad. So I could like show it to people and then just email it to them immediately. Like as soon as I met a team manager or whatever. And so like, I still went into it like somewhat prepared, but like modernized from like my dad's leather portfolio.
Totally.
It's changed.
Did you have that moment where you were like, okay, I've made it? Because skiing or the type of skiing we do is pretty unique because there's not these objective boxes you're checking unless you're Freeride World Tour or on the contest circuit. For the most part, it's like, I think I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
Like, was it, one distinct moment where you're like, cool, I think I can do this? Or is it just this kind of non-linear?
There was like a couple moments of like reinforcement rather than like an aha moment because it's like completely like abstract subjective measures of success in what we do, and I feel like many years into my career that's what I still struggle with. But I remember my first cover was, I feel like when I first was like, whoa, I'm actually kind of doing it, like this. My first cover was a cover of Ski Magazine. It was from a photo shoot trip in Europe with Scott Markowitz. And I even just getting invited on that trip was pretty crazy. Like it was my first trip to Europe, my first like paid ski thing. I remember like I'd never skied in Europe. I hadn't been on a trip. I actually had a broken fibula that I was like hiding from the crew.
Wow.
Or tibula, which is the one that doesn't really matter as much.
No one knows the answer to this question.
Well, whatever. The bone in your shin that doesn't do much, but still really hurts when it's broken. So I could ski, but I was like kind of pretending like I was fine. But I was like crying and taking a bunch of like ibuprofen every night. But I remember like I got there late at night. I didn't know anybody I was with, and I like opened the curtain. I had my own room. I was like, oh my God, I'm a princess. And I like opened the curtains, and we were in Engelberg, and it was just like the Swiss Alps, and I was like jumping up and down, like crying with like joy, and then to have that kind of first real ski trip lead to my first cover, like I was just over the moon. And that gave me the like motivation to like keep at it. Cause like at that time in my mind, I was going to compete as well. And it was when the Free Skiing World Tour and the Freeride World Tour were just merging. And so it was just kind of a weird time where like they hadn't totally picked up speed on all these like 2, 3, and 4-star stops for the free. It was just like an awkward time where competing wasn't really happening. I did a few of the bonsai race tours, and I was like, this is
not my jam.
I'm going to die doing this. And then I'm not going to be able to be a professional skier because I'm not going to have like a knees or back or neck or anything. But so I saw like shooting photos as like my in, and I was finding with like even my Flow sponsorships at the time, like they cared a lot more, and I could get like $500 for a plane ticket to a photo shoot way easier than I could get $500 for a contrast entry fee. And I was just like, I think that first cover was like, oh, it's working. Like I should at least keep trying.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like I made it until I like fairly officially didn't have a second job. Cause all throughout the beginning of my ski career, I had so many other side jobs. Like I was working in marketing for like a high-end jewelry company for a big portion of it, like as their media manager, like a full on just kind of office job on the side in a world that I knew nothing about, by the way.
Yeah, I thought about putting together like a list of the jobs that
Yeah.
I've like had come up over the years of what you've done,
Yeah.
and it got pretty long pretty quick.
I mean, just random, all kinds of random stuff to make it work. But like at some point, and I know I noticed it because like on my taxes, I used to have all these different categories and stuff. Like I was top bar, I was like a fitness instructor, and I would do all these different categories. And then at some point on my tax form that I would fill out every year, there was only income in the one category. And I was like, wow, I am a functioning professional skier. I am making a living off of skiing. And nowadays that means a lot of things like influencing and Instagram and so many other things than I used to think it would mean. But the reality is it's all because I'm a professional skier is why I'm making this money, I guess, which is crazy. And I never thought that was going to be possible, to be honest.
No, and there's that pinch yourself moment where you're like, whoa, I'm getting paid to do what I love. Like my first Kessler contract was for like $1,000.
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
And I was like,
Yeah.
like good for you. Like but it is like pretty magical to
Yeah.
like see the pieces coming into place, no matter how slowly they might
Yeah.
fall into place.
I think I was lucky though, because that first cover of Ski Magazine, I think I was like not even 2 years into trying. So I did have that kind of immediate what's the word I'm trying to find? Gratification? Is that a word?
Yes.
Okay.
Validation.
Validation, yeah, to like be like, okay, keep trying. Because I think if it hadn't, I probably would have moved on. I don't know. I've always been like really driven, and I just knew the realities of what I was getting into. I knew there's so many skiers around Tahoe, and I'm sure coming from Sun Valley or here in Jackson, like you can think of so many people that tried to make it and didn't make it. And so like I almost like saw that more than like the success stories of like the professional skiers in my world that did make it.
100%. And I feel like I've mentored people over the years, and they've been amazing skiers. And they give it a go for like a season, and they're like, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, yeah, it's in many ways like starting a business. Like you, like 3, 4, 5 years, you might not be like barely breaking even, but it just takes time, I feel like, to carve out that spot. Because yeah, like you said, nobody needs another pro skier.
No.
Like
I mean, it's like I also realized that I found more and more like I loved the work of it. Like that's the biggest misnomer I think about being a professional skier is people think that being a professional skier is loving to ski and skiing all the time. And yes, I get to ski a lot. I get to ski in a lot of cool places. But like there's a lot of the best days I'm not actually skiing that much. You're waiting and you're figuring out and you're talking and you're working with the cameras and nowadays we're at home at night, like emailing and editing reels. And now all the projects I'm a part of, I produce. And I think that just over time, I just realized I liked the job of it too. Like I love the rewarding. What we do is really hard. Like people don't understand how hard it is to get a good shot skiing, video or stills. It's super hard. Like so many things it's the hardest thing to capture, I think, of any sport, skiing and snowboarding. And so
yeah, for all the stars to align.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
And then
rare.
On top of that, for your photographer to be well known enough to get accepted magazines, and it's
Yeah, I
a
mean,
lot
so
of
many
pieces.
things have to go right, and I think that makes it when it does work and go right, like it's really rewarding. And when I was in college, the Columbia College Art School, I graduated with a degree in media management. So like my degree was basically a business degree from the perspective of the arts and entertainment like world industry. And so like my senior thesis was like a media kit and business plan for myself as an artist. And like what a perfect like skill set to then be able to take that and do that for myself as an athlete. And then like I've said, so many things I've done lately, like I produce, and if I wasn't a skier, I would be like a producer, art director, creative director type person. That's like what I would want to do. And so I think it's cool that I've been able to like combine those two things. But it's like, I also see a lot of younger skiers get burnt out of like, but I hate like the photo shoots, or I hate having to make one turn. It's like, well, the best skiers in the world can make a great one turn. And like, you have to be a really good skier to make it look good sometimes when it's not good, or it's awkward, or it's not where you want to turn. It's like sometimes what you have to do, whether it's stills or video. And like, when you get the luxury of like filming and just skiing wherever you want, how you want, like that's great. But to like get there, you also have to be good at like the hard stuff. And I think a lot of skiers don't realize that like when you're signing up to be a pro skier, like most people do it because they love skiing, which is great. And I love skiing too, but I also loved the job of it. I wasn't raised by a family of like avid skiers. I was raised by a professional skier, like doing the work of skiing professionally.
And I think in anything, if you can enjoy or like celebrate the process, like the end result is not secondary, but it's just
or you lose your mind if you don't enjoy the process a little bit, or at least see the value in it. Like, I'm not saying there's not days when I'm doing shoots and stuff where I'm not super frustrated, but because it's hard, it can be a grind, and a lot of times it's not that fruitful. Actually, it's more often less fruitful than the opposite.
100%.
I think most of the days we've like shot together have been kind of like we're like pounding our head against the wall. We're like, why are we doing this? It's not working.
Like, let's go free ski. Be way more fun.
But sometimes you end up pulling stuff out when you think it's not working. There's a lot of cases of that. So.
That's always the case. You just keep, and also sometimes like the cover shot comes from not the banger day you thought. You know, you're like, whoa, can't believe that.
That's like volume of days out. I think. I've seen you take that approach and just make sure you're out. I mean, specifically photos, like shooting a lot of days, right?
Yeah.
That's ultimately what ends up.
I do.
Getting. I
get like almost. I got reprimanded by Sage Catebrigilosa recently. He told me that I worked too hard at skiing, and that it needs to be 60% fun and 40% work. And I think I'm like at like more often like a 70% work, 30% fun kind of. And so Sage was like, you need to stop working so hard and go ski for fun. Like, take a good day and go ski for fun. Because I would never do that, especially earlier in my career.
And Sage is kind of a master at turning having fun into like a job with his, YouTube series.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you figure out a way to just go free ski everywhere
with your friends,
with your buddies.
Yeah.
Damn it. Why didn't I think of that?
Exactly. I know.
Well, but his approach works really well because you need to be getting those reps of and getting good feeling on skis to be able to perform well, right? So
Which
he's
is
just
hard.
one of those people who's made sure to make that a priority, and that's why when he is filming, wherever he's producing a lot.
Well, and I think if I were to like critique my career or say like I was me looking at younger me, like I would say that I think that my work ethic or like obsessive, like my attitude towards making like overworking hindered my progression as an athlete a bit. There's other things that I think hindered it as well, but because I was always doing stuff in front of a camera, I didn't want to waste someone's time by like, I'm only going to do things I know I can nail, right?
Yeah.
And land and like make look good. And so that didn't allow time to like go really focus on learning tricks or whatever. Like I would choose the thing that I knew was going to work for the shot and like make everybody happy over like taking the risk of like doing something I didn't know I was going to nail, which
like I've never tried this before, but today seems like the day.
Yeah. Well, there's like a bunch of people like standing around. Like, I was like, you should do that on your own time, but I wouldn't make my own time to do that when the conditions would warrant it.
Totally.
That's like, yeah.
And so early on in your career, I mean, you got the ski cover, and then I'm not sure how far into your career we are at this point, but you're out shooting with Adam Clark outside of in Little Cottonwood Canyon, and you get an avalanche, and like that risk kind of comes into focus. Can you kind of walk us through, like, I know you've probably walked a lot of people through this story, but I think it's fascinating, like in every aspect of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, speaking to things that have probably hindered my progress, like fundamentally as a skier, it was pretty early. The avalanche accident happened in 2014. No, 2013, December of 2013. So at that point, I think it was 3-ish years into like trying to be a pro skier. And it was an early season day at Alta. I was actually shooting in the morning with a different photographer that day, inbounds at Alta with Liam Duran, and got another cover that day from that morning with Liam. But I had always wanted to shoot with Adam. He was just the famous photographer that you saw in all the magazines. And
did you tell Liam? You're like, hey, somebody else called. I got to go.
He knew. He was like, oh, you're ditching me for Adam Clark? I'm like, yeah. But I was also kind of like that. I would like, everybody would like think that I owed them loyalty. Like as photographer, I was like, no, I'm going to shoot with everybody. Like, nobody owns me. But yeah, I had never met Adam. I had never skied or shot with him, but like we were connected, and it was like a gorgeous day. It was just beautiful, classic Utah, like 2 feet of blower, sunny, sparkly, like, and I think I hadn't skied Utah even that much. I can't remember specifically. It was my first trip out there, but it was one of the earlier ones. Like it was my, skiing that kind of snow and POW and the scene. And I think it was like also right around when like Powder Awards had been. So like all the industry people are around, and just super magical day. And we were going to go out for a side country. I don't really use that term anymore, but at the time we called it a side country photo lap for sunset. And it was just to this zone called Grizzly Gulch, which is like basically in the parking lot at Alta. We didn't even use skins to get out there. We just like boot packed up like a groomer or whatever. And I had taken my AV1 course a month before this. So like I wasn't uneducated. Like I knew all the things. I had just learned about the heuristic traps and human factors and blah, blah, blah. And I had been skiing all day, and I think it was just like super high on life. And we were headed out there, and it turned out that Adam Clark didn't have any of his avalanche gear with him. I had all mine. I had beacon shovel probe and an airbag. And then the other athlete with us only had a beacon, but didn't have a shoveler probe. And we like all kind of discovered that on our way out, but just didn't really, oh yeah, whatever. It's just like in the parking lot, like no big deal. Anyways, we set up for a shot, this like classic spot that like many, many covers of Powder have come from.
These locations will all be in the show notes.
Well,
all your aspiring skiers.
It's not a secret spot. It's literally just a ditch next to the parking lot that has an epic background that everybody skis kind of on their way out of stuff or avoids because it's a huge drain trap. Anyways, we set up for a shot. I drop in, make a turn, huge pocket just releases all around me. And like it was so interesting because I didn't have like a premonition or a feeling when I was dropping in. I happened to notice there's 2 people across the way, like looking at me, like watching me kind of. But anyways, so the pocket rips out. I pull my airbag, kind of like fight, get on some trees. Then the whole slope sympathetically like releases, pulls me off the trees. I tumble a little bit, land in the bottom of this deep drain trap and get buried, even with the airbag. And I end up being recovered by these 2 strangers that were watching. They were actually stopped documenting adjacent avalanche activity, and they actually videoed the thing, and you can hear them saying like, get ready to perform like a rescue, like as I'm dropping in. And yeah, I was buried 3 feet under. I was under the snow for about 5-ish minutes, give or take. And mind you,
are you thinking like, okay, nobody else really has gear? Like,
so honestly, like the second the pocket release, like I went from like, oh my God, life is so amazing, I'm so happy. And it like in an instant like snapped. And I was like, okay, you need to do X, Y, Z to stay alive. Like your body just goes into like, okay, airbag, 45 trees, and like I was just like so robotic. And then even when I was under the snow, like I had that moment when you know you're buried and you can't move. Like you can't move enough to like shake. Like it's crazy. And I didn't have snow in my mouth. Thankfully, I had my buff like over my mouth, and I had grabbed onto like the corner of my helmet as I started tumbling to like try to make an air pocket. But I had snow like pushed against my goggles, and I had that moment when I was initially buried where I think my brain for like a second went to all these details. Cause like I kind of ran through those details the second the pocket released. I was like, huge terrain trap, 2.5 feet of fresh snow, early season, partners don't have gear. Like all of those things went through my mind, like in the, instant that the whole, like just that feeling of snow moving you is crazy. And so like once I was under the snow, the only thing I could think about is that like I knew I couldn't panic because I knew that would just make it less time.
Yeah.
And so all I could really think about is just don't panic, breathe slow, don't panic, breathe slow. A couple times I like had the thought of like, I hope I'm not too deep because I didn't know. You don't know.
I like cannot imagine being that level-headed in that situation.
But like you have to be.
Yeah. But
sure.
You're still like
yeah.
Like that's some good mental like
yeah, it
toughness
was
or like
yeah. Anyways, I ended up getting dug out by those 2 strangers. Adam came down and he actually pulled a probe. I believe I learned all of this actually from a podcast that was done with all of us, exactly what was going on up there. But he pulled a probe out of someone else's bag, and I felt a probe strike actually pretty quickly. maybe like within the first minute, which was a great feeling. So I kind of knew I was found. I didn't know how far down I was or how long it would take. And honestly, the whole ordeal was kind of like over and out within like 15 minutes. Like they pulled me out of the snow. I kind of introduced myself to these two dudes, but then like immediately forgot their names, and it was really cold out. I had totally peed my pants, and we were in some hang fire, and we just got out of there, and it was wild, right? The craziest thing, I think it was a very impactful experience. It was probably maybe my third time in the backcountry ever. And it was not a big, scary slope. It was not deep. I didn't feel scared. I didn't know I was making a bad decision. I didn't have a bad feeling. I didn't ignore a gut instinct. Like, I was so high on life, shooting photos with some guy I'd always wanted to shoot with in a place I'd always wanted to be on the most beautiful day ever. And so I think that avalanche was crazy. And then it also turned into this like media storm because the whole community.
Yeah, all the industry people are there.
All the industry people are there.
You're next to the
TGR was
parking lot.
starting their IPRW, International Pro Riders Camp, the next day because I ended up staying at in a friend's room because I was supposed to drive actually home to Tahoe after shooting, and I just couldn't because I was pretty clipped out and covered in pee and had really bad whiplash. But I was like walking out of the building as like, I think it was like Sage and some guys were like walking in, and like Adam was part of that IPRW that year too, I think. Anyways, it turned into this whole thing. Everybody started lighting us up for being idiots, which is obvious, like we know. Nobody was going to make me feel dumber than like I knew I had been.
No, but I appreciate the fact that you guys owned it.
Immediately.
And just you and Adam owned it.
Yeah.
And my point here is not to like oust third person, but like owning your mistakes in the backcountry is like a pretty, I don't know, powerful lesson for everybody else as a professional skier. Like I've done the
exact
like
opposite.
Of owning my mistakes.
No, like a lot of athletes, like at the time, would try and hide those things because there's so much shame around it.
Exactly. I mean, I've been in a similar early season experience. Like one of our crew forgot their beacon. You're like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. We got in this massive avalanche, and like everybody was fine, but it was like we were breaking like protocol rule number 1.
Yeah.
But to own your mistake, I think is like pretty powerful, regardless of like the onslaught of criticism that you might get.
We like, that's what like for me, I had to do in that situation. I think Adam and I both like, there's so much like shame around avalanche accidents where I still think to this day, like we don't get quite enough information. Cause like I think within like 3 days, like wrote a like online blog piece about what happened, which nobody came to my blog. Like that one piece got lots and lots of views, but like I wasn't a blogger or whatever. But I wrote this blog because I was just like, I need to give this day a narrative. Because if anybody reads the case study of what we did that day in like an Avi course, everybody reading that case study is going to be like, oh, I would never be that dumb. I would never be that reckless or stupid. And like, I would never characterize myself as like a reckless, stupid, like careless person. I'm a very like conservative person when it comes to risk. And I was then, but the day needed like a narrative to understand. Like, that's why Adam and I talked about it so freely immediately and continued forever. And anybody that wanted us to interview us about it, to try to give the story so that people could see themselves in the position of making those mistakes, to hopefully not make them or catch themselves doing it. Because like, it's so easy the way we learn about avalanche safety in like this scientific environment to be like, well, I would never be that dumb. But then when you hear a story of someone who says, I'm a super conservative person and I got swept up in a moment and my endorphins were high and I just stopped making decisions. I didn't even make bad decisions. I just wasn't making decisions.
Yeah, the human factor is so much more real almost more relevant, I guess, than like the snow science at times. Because like there's plenty of really smart people that make a series of bad decisions, and in retrospect you're like, what were they thinking?
And I think pros are at the time, I think it's changed now to a point. But even at the time, I remember like Chris Davenport like reaching out and he's like, I've been following everything that happened with the Grizzly Gulch avalanche. I just read your story. Like, you've inspired me. Like, I was in this huge avalanche in Switzerland and I totally hit it. and you've inspired me. I'm going to go in, I'm going to totally open it all up and share everything about it for like the learning experience of it. Like I had a lot of people reach out and be like, I'm going to change the way I did this or do this.
But that's more of it's becoming more accepted now, right?
Yeah.
But I think what you're saying, even then, maybe that was something that started the momentum to get to this era where maybe it's.
But it just like no one was going to make me feel more idiotic than I felt.
It's
like
still
I
a
was
lot
the
to
one that was under the
deal
snow.
with on top of the
And also
trauma
put
you're-
these other people at risk. Not even so much at risk in that situation, but also acknowledging that like I think a lot of people think about like, yes, it was a very traumatic experience being buried alive. Definitely like checks all the boxes. That was a really traumatic experience for the people that rescued me, the strangers that rescued me, for Adam. Like that was trauma all the way around.
So coming out of this avalanche, like you're getting a lot of heat online or in person about decision making, and I feel like this has been a little bit of a theme of your career, I guess, as far as like not being afraid to put yourself out there. With the hypocrite, like really, kind of putting a target on your back a little bit. And do you think like having a thick skin is something you develop, or is it something like innate as far as like, you know what, I'm going to share my opinion and like go like pound sand if you don't like it?
I think maybe some of both. Like, I definitely am a very naturally opinionated person, and I'm not always the best
I
at
haven't
keeping my
noticed that
opinion to
about you.
myself. Should work on that. I think that maybe the avalanche and dealing with that blowback. So like, because nobody even knew who I was at that point, and that was like a lot of, I think, people's like first introduction to me was like, oh, that idiot that almost died in the
Like,
train trap.
Puts you on the map.
Wrong
and
way
kind
for
of the
sure.
wrong way.
And maybe like just dealing with that was good experience for, I just, again, like in that situation, like I nobody was going to make me feel worse than I made myself feel. So it didn't really matter what anybody else said, if there was some way I could make something good out of it, like that was the best I could do. Like if someone could learn or whatever, like that's all I could do in the moment. And so maybe that like set me up for, I would have never like, I don't think I'd ever describe myself as like super thick skin, like nothing gets to me. Cause I think a lot of that stuff ultimately does get to me. And I am someone who, one of the things I want to work on and, change more about myself is caring less about what people think. Like I think that's not natural for me, but there's something about when there's like it's a means to a bigger end than my personal feelings being hurt. I think that's what it's about. And I think maybe I learned that in the avalanche experience. I don't know. I never really put all that together, but.
Yeah. I mean, it's taking the high road. You're like, all right, people are going to give me a hard time, but more people are going to learn from this experience. And like those people that are giving me the hard time don't matter. The loudest boos come from the cheapest.
Yeah. And just know that like the outcome is more important than like my feelings. And I think that's how I felt with The Hypocrite, like making a movie about the hypocrisy of being a climate advocate and being a professional athlete that burns a lot of fossil fuels for my, pursuit of my career and even just for, joy and pleasure. Obviously I knew like I was going to get a lot of hate, but it was for something that was so much bigger and more important than like my hurt feelings. And like in that process, I received tons of like hate comments and critiques and criticisms, and even throughout the process of making that. But like, I also got so many amazing, like, and with the avalanche too, like so many people saying like, hey, like this story changed my life, or this changed the way I'm going to handle these situations in the future. Or so many people that came to me after watching The Hypocrite saying like, you changed my attitude and outlook on using my voice for what I care about. Like that's so much more important to me than somebody on the internet saying something mean about me. And like, I'm not going to say that those things, like there was a time, especially during The Hypocrite, where like every time I would open any of my screens, it would just be like hundreds of notifications of hate comments from pick one of the, platforms. And it was to the point where it's like overwhelming. Every time I'd open my email, there's 100 YouTube comments calling me some different version of an idiot. That wears on you, but it wasn't like, I don't know, I just am able to say like that, okay, like I'll deal with my feelings about this, but that's like less important than like what I hope the benefit is. Like the benefit outweighs the negative. And it was the same with the avalanche thing. I mean, and that wasn't like premeditated. That was just like me trying to survive that experience. Because at the same time, I was like traumatized and like freaked out. And then I ended up getting in like an inbound slide like a month later and blowing my knee. And I was like, I was just freaked out. I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to like ski again or certainly ever enjoy skiing again. So
Yeah, what was the process coming back to skiing after that? I mean, I have to imagine, or like the incidents I've been in, the next time you're on top of something, you're like, this feels really familiar and it
Yeah.
wasn't good last time. Was it a lot of like mental work to get
after
back?
the first
on your
avalanche, I
feet, so to
kind of was
speak?
just like I had really bad whiplash and I had bruised my kidney. So like I needed a couple days. I drove home the next day and I actually don't do this, but I tied my head to my seat with a sweatshirt because I couldn't hold my own neck up because I had Todd knows about like
Never heard of this. Never heard of that technique.
don't,
before.
I mean, I'm sure it was not safe, but I was driving from Salt Lake to Tahoe, so there's no turns.
Yeah.
Todd, wouldn't you roll your hair up in the window like while you're doing a long road trip?
No
So if
way.
you like fell asleep,
this a
it'd
real
pull
story?
your hair.
I have not thought of that.
That was not
You
your
would need to
hack?
do that because you fall
I
asleep
forget where
so
that hack
much.
came from.
No, I'm pretty good behind the wheel. Thankfully these days, it's everything else.
Todd sleeps. We digress, but Todd sleeps is my number one performing content on the internet.
Everybody loves it.
But
My move was just
fair.
like a 20-pound dumbbell. So anytime you got tired, you just do like bicep
I'm gonna try
curls
that.
on the road and wake you up.
That's a good hack. Actually, the thing that's interesting for me in driving is that I'm way better off at the hours where people would
Middle of the
struggle to
night.
stay awake. Like I can do like a late night push solid. It's like the middle of the day where I struggle.
So
Yeah.
stay off the roads in the middle of the day. If you're
Driving
in
your dog.
Tahoe or Salt Lake.
Anyways,
Okay.
yeah, but
Little
yeah, getting
digression
back to
there.
skiing after the
Anyway.
avalanche, I just, as soon as I like could move my neck, I just like went out for a day, only just totally by myself to just go ski KT. And I just like needed to just ski just to like, it was kind of just like get back on the horse mentality. It happened in December, year 3 of me trying to be a professional skier. I wasn't like something that I was feeling like I was gonna, I'm a very stubborn person as well. I think a lot of the ways I got through that was just being really stubborn, but yeah, you
Didn't know
hadn't heard
about
that
that
either.
about you either.
Haven't noticed.
Ah.
Stubborn and opinionated. I was walking to KT though through the parking lot, and I just wanted to ski by myself. I think my dad might have even been out of town, but I wanted to go by myself. And I was walking through the parking lot, and JT Holmes was like, wow. I saw him in the parking lot, and he just goes, "Hey, good job not dying out there." And like that was it. That's like all he said to me. I was just like, thanks, JT.
Thanks,
like wasn't
JT.
thinking about it. But no, it was the problem was I was doing okay. I got back out there, was going on shoots. I came out here to Jackson. I went up to Revy on a trip with Todd, and I was kind of like doing okay. I was struggling with like a lot of like night sweats and stuff, like kind of bad, but I was kind of doing okay ish. I think I was honestly just so traumatized for so long I didn't really know. But I was skiing, I was on trips, I was skiing POW, like I had gone back in the backcountry. But like literally, I think it was maybe almost 2 months later, I was skiing inbounds at Crystal. Inbounds, open terrain, trees had been bombed, was wearing Abby backpack, was jumping, like hitting in air. And I just thought like there was going to be a lot of snow moving. So I'd like ski cut it. Like I couldn't have done more things right. Like in the situation in Grizzly Gulch. Yeah, like in the
like, I'm
situation in Grizzly
nailing it
Gulch, I
this
made
time.
every single mistake. And there was something validating to your point of like, not very often as human beings do we get to test ourselves. We like to think about, mentalize, prepare, practice for like when shit hits the fan, how are you going to react? I got to try it and I did a good job. Like there was something that like I took solace in that from. I know that sounds like kind of weird, but it's like I knew that I did everything I needed to do in that situation to like have my best shot at staying alive. Ultimately, stranger saved my life, but like there's something I felt like it wasn't like confidence instilling, but like there was something that was like almost beneficial there that I could take away. So then I'm inbounds at Crystal. I do all these things right. Like I couldn't have possibly made any better decisions. And I land, a big pocket releases, pulls me through a bunch of trees. I get pinned under snow. I have snow way down my throat. I pull my airbag. I get wrapped around a tree and blow my knee. That traumatized me. Because in that situation, I did everything right and I still got spanked. And probably I was in bounds.
And you're
It
in
was
bounds.
open terrain. I mean, obviously, like we were concerned. I think it had like snowed 40 inches overnight or something. And so like we were all wearing Avie gear in bounds just because we knew it was kind of one of those treacherous days. And it wasn't too long. It was like a year after the Stevens Pass avalanche. And so like, we were all trying to be just mindful of that stuff. And so that one, the two of them happening close together, and that one was actually like probably objectively more dangerous. After that, I was really traumatized because then I went into like, I would not have like full on nightmares, but I would basically wake up every single night drenched in sweat for like nearly a year. But I wouldn't be like waking up like, oh my God, I'm dying in an avalanche. Like I would wake up with not a memory of a nightmare. I would just be so sweat through that I'd have to get up and like change my pajamas. And I would deal with that like basically every night for like a year. And it took me kind of almost a year to like just get enough out of the shock of it all to realize how traumatized I was to then eventually go see a trauma counselor. Like I did the EMDR rapid eye movement trauma modality, whatever. It's like it's 10 sessions and you kind of reprogram your subconscious around the trauma, and that was really helpful. Like that made the night sweats stop and stuff. But I do remember like for a long time afterwards, like the feeling we all love, like, when the snow's like touching your ski clothes when you're like skiing POW and you can feel the snow like touching you and like moving on you, and how like that's kind of this magical thing we all like love. That would make me so sick to my stomach for like years. Like the feeling of snow moving near my body, and you'd even see it like in my shots and clips and stuff. Like every turn I'm looking over my back. Like I hated skiing powder, inbounds, out about anywhere, like to the point of like so sick I couldn't eat for like really bad, like 2 years. And like I kind of didn't know if I was ever going to enjoy it again. And I would be miserable every time I was in the backcountry, just so scared. And then eventually, like I just kind of got better. Like I remember like
just like a combination of time.
The trauma therapy helped a lot, like get through like the initial wave of like, I was also not going to heal when I like I didn't like sleep for a year. Right. Cause I was that traumatized.
But not from the
I think it was
event.
them together. I think one without the other would have been okay. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, that's
and there's been a couple other weird ones since. Like I was in an inbound slide on a boot pack at Snowbird like 4 or 5 years later, and I was in a pretty yucky slide on Pyramid when I was in Alaska. Like I kept having these kind of reinforcing experiences of like this lack of control in the mountains is like what I ultimately drilled it down to, is like that when you do the trauma counseling, you try to figure out what about the experience was traumatizing. And I figured out that the most traumatizing part of it was like really acknowledging my lack of control, even if I think I'm managing the risk or making good decisions.
But skiing is unique like that because without the risk,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be the same. Like if you had control, if there's no like
variables
like out of so
well,
like
there's even
finding
risk
that
when you're like
balance where
ripping down a
okay,
perfectly groomed like slope, like a piste or whatever. Like there's still risk in that. I mean, but there's also more. I also acknowledge that there's more risk in like driving down the road than most of the stuff I ski. Right, like I'm more likely to die in a car accident than skiing, just statistically. But yeah, I think it was years of stubbornness, and I think the thing that I think got me through is I was so stubborn that what I didn't want, what I couldn't tolerate, was fear winning, and that experience, those two experiences being the reason I like quit skiing or quit being a professional skier.
that is
I was
stubborn.
like,
You're like, no,
Yeah.
you're
yeah,
not,
like
you're
I was
not
like, my
gonna scare
biggest
me
fear
out
is
of
fear
this.
winning in this battle. And eventually I started to like skiing again. I started to enjoy skiing powder again. I started to be able to eat breakfast on big film days or backcountry days. And I was always kind of like would just like kind of over communicate with like ski partners and stuff. And I think some people hated skiing with me because I'd be like, nope, I'm going to dig a pit. I'm going to talk about this. Like, I'm going to tell you how scared I am. Like, and I think that ultimately it did change my natural like risk tolerance a lot, like at kind of a critical part in my career. And I think that what I've gone through the past couple seasons, going on like 10 years now since this happened, is just accepting. For a long time, I was traumatized. Then I was, you know, in the throes of like recovering from the trauma. Then I was so angry that like I couldn't just jump back in and be this crazy, risk adverse, like aggressive skier. Like I was still trying to find her because she was in there. She used to be there. Like I used to be a totally different person in skier before this happened. And like my dad will tell you that for sure. Like I had found some sort of aggression and then it went away. And then for like years, I was so angry about that. And I was still trying so hard to get back to that person and making myself absolutely miserable doing it.
Like not being able to like
just not being willing to
at
take
the level
the highest level of risk that you need to maybe be whatever the best skier in the world.
Yeah, I've joked around with buddies about it. Like breaking your NAR switch. Like you can't turn it on and you like don't really know.
But then I was like so angry about that. I was like, oh, this experience like stole my potential as a professional skier from me. Like, because I would be in situations and I'd be like, I have seen too much to, in my reasonable mind, make this call. And you've been in the mountains with me. I'm a conservative person in the mountains. Like I am.
Yeah,
and
it's not a bad thing.
It doesn't mean I don't ski things, but I think there was some aggressiveness that was lost. And it took me, I was really kind of searching for that and angry about that. And like in the last couple of years, I finally have learned to accept that. And I'm in this like era of trying to relearn, like, it's okay. Like I still have gifts, even though I'm never turned out to be the skier that I thought I was going to be when I was 23. Like the skier I thought I was trying to be when I was 23, when I finally decided like, I'm going to do this, like watch out world, that skier never came to fruition. So like, how can I accept and like be okay with the skier I turned out to be, which is still successful.
And you still have over half a dozen Warren Miller segments, 4 independently, or probably more than that, but what do you think? 4 independently produced like feature-ish length films. So
I think I'm going on like 12 covers. I still want more. I still have a goal of a cover suite.
Yeah.
I want a cover of every publication.
I'm curious to know about this because you've been so successful with photos in the moment now that that's becoming
now that nobody wants
to
that.
get with fewer mags and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Tell us about, that transition, or is there still a place for photos?
I mean, I think it's hard because on some level we need more photos than ever, right? We're all supposed to post bangers multiple times a day on the internet, as our brands and everything. But like, they're not these like treasured moments that like we open a magazine and we're like, in awe by this beautiful photo or whatever. I don't know. Like we at our house, like Todd and I in our bathroom have like 100 ski magazines. Like we keep them all. Like we go back and look at them. And I think I struggle. It's not even just photos, like even making feature films, making ski movies the way like we all started doing when we started our careers isn't really like the meat and potatoes of the industry anymore. So it's not just that like, well, we're not out here trying to get covers. We're not out here trying to make like a, real movie part. Like, what are we trying to do? Like, I don't even know. Like, I think like sitting here midwinter, what is it, February 3rd or 4th or something? Like, I'm like, God, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do this winter. Like, I want to shoot photos. Like, it's in my DNA to be like, well, we got to go get covers. And it's like, covers of what? Like, covers for your reel that you're going to put up that like nobody's going to watch? Or, I know, but like, I think it's a tough thing to your point, Griff, like come up with the next idea of like, how are we? I feel there's still, if I try to look at success in my career, I look at some of these goals that I had set for myself. Some of them I got. Dancing with Stars I've not gotten yet. But some of them I got. Some of them I got like to a degree. And some of them don't exist anymore. Right? Like I can't have them anymore. And so it's just really weird to like try to have success when it's like, well, I met some goals, but like it's hard to make new goals. And it's like I don't know if you guys feel this way, but like we signed up to play this game. And it's not even that the rules of the game have changed. It's like the game is gone. So it's like, well, what are we doing? Like, I don't really want to be a professional skier just to make Instagram content. Like, I love making beautiful images that someone's going to look at in a magazine. I love telling like a story or like building out, like being part of like a big ski movie, or like there's just things about how I used to love, like, yeah, I love skiing, but I love the world of ski media as well. Like I'm just a junkie about like ski movies and magazines and art. I just love it. And now that stuff doesn't exist, and I can't like find the same passion for some Instagram reel as I do for like trying to make a movie or trying to be part of a Warren Miller or TGR movie or something, you know?
When you're taking on those bigger projects though, like came out with Blue Hour recently and Hypocrite the year before that, is there, I guess, a different level of satisfaction you get from like that longer format storytelling? And that, like, I mean, it's a challenge to make any sort of ski movie. Like we went to some premiere the other night, like people knocked it a little bit, and I was
Yeah.
like, no, you don't know how hard that is. Like that, like to organize a filmers, get good snow, put a
Well,
premiere on, like,
but you're not even
yeah,
mentioning the hardest
that's
part is to
like
get the money to do it. To me, the hardest part is to get the
totally.
money to buy into, like, I joked, like, especially for Boots Over Brim, I joked that I like, went into the hills and mined for gold to like make that project happen. And that's everything I've ever done. The hardest part has actually been trying to find the money. The rest of it's the fun part, but trying to find the support. I think that's what people don't know about like professional skiing is like, I feel like we're constantly like fighting for support to do what we want to do. It's not just about go out and chase your dreams and ski the line of your dreams. It's like, well, I need resources to do that. Like that's like what's really unique about what we're trying to do is ultimately we need resources to accomplish our goals or live out our dreams. Budgets are
And
always
budgets
so
are
tight,
always
tighter
tight.
than ever. Budgets are flat. Budgets are flat is like a good, you're like, oh, cool. We love it.
That's a good year.
So,
So you have,
so I'm
so you
not
have
cut.
something.
But I think like the personal projects, it's weird because you would think in some ways they are more satisfying. I think something like The Hypocrite was just different because it was a different beast. It was a climate documentary, and I directed it, and it was so much, and it was so outside of my wheelhouse. But something like Blue Hour, I'm super proud of it. I think it's beautiful. I got to work on it with two of my great friends, and I think it came out really close to the vision, and people gave me good feedback. But I didn't make Blue Hour because I wanted to do my personal thing. I made Blue Hour because no one was calling. I didn't have another option. Like a lot of those things I do because I've just never been the person to like sit around and wait for the phone to ring because it doesn't ring. Like, so like if I don't do
Yeah.
something or make something, then I'm not a part of anything.
Well, but that doesn't
Boots
apply
Over
to Boots Over
Brim,
Brim,
yes and no. I
you know?
went to Sweetgrass and I said, here's how much money I have right now. Here's how much money I can
No, but
raise.
in
And
the
like,
sense
can
that
we
it
make a
was,
project? And then I was like, do you have an idea? And they
that's
brought
not
the
what I'm
idea
talking
to
about.
me.
I'm talking about how it was something that you were excited
Yeah.
to do, and you can look at the finished project, and people can
Yeah.
enjoy
I mean,
that
Boots
10
Over
years from
Brim
now. And
was the exception just because it was so fun. Like when Zeppelin was like told me his idea, because it was actually Zeppelin's idea, I was like, nobody wants that. Like nobody wants a Western dancing ski edit. And then
well,
I
people
like called
do.
it back 2 days later. I was like, dude, fuck it. I want to do that so bad. It sounds so fun. Actually, one
Actually,
person
one
wants it
person
and it's
wants it.
me. And so I was really proud of that. But even with that, like I'm always so critical. Like I wished we had gotten better skiing, or that was my criticism of Blue Hour, is like I didn't have a ton of budget, so I only had like 3 days to shoot action, which we all know isn't really enough to stack bangers. Like the probability that you're going to get everything to align to like ski your best with only 3 days to work with is just whatever, like, it's very low percentage. It happens, but it does not happen
yeah,
very often.
Not
So
regularly.
I wish that those things are a little more satisfying, but it's almost just because I feel like they're a means to an end where I'm like, okay, well, I better come up with something, to do. And I end up liking them and being proud of what I do, but I would also, there's still a part of me that just wants the phone to ring and say, hey, Amie, come film with us and be part of this,
Yeah, and I think that journey of like producing something on your own, like once you have the money and the vision, it's still so hard, and it can
Yeah.
be so lonely. I mean, yeah, you have like producers and production people and partners, but at the end of the day, like
Yeah.
it's you. It's you that has to make that happen. And I feel like I really saw that within The Hypocrite. And like that stress and that like level of loneliness is like
Yeah.
pretty hard hitting. How do you, I guess, work through that. I know, like in The Hypocrite, we had some conversation back and forth. In retrospect,
Do
I
you
was
want,
kind of a
do you want to
jerk.
remember? Do you want me to remind you of what you told me when I was having a meltdown about Hypocrite when we were talking?
Yeah.
Well, it was
Yeah, it
actually
wasn't helpful,
wildly
for sure.
helpful, and
Like,
it's been a very good benchmark for me in subsequent meltdowns. I was melting down because everything was hard, and you said, "Amie, you really need to calm down. Nobody's dead or pregnant."
all right, I thought I said something different. No, I said nobody's dead,
In jail,
pregnant, or
even
in jail.
is kind of solvable. But you were like, "These are all solvable problems."
Well, it
True,
depends on
true.
the crime.
But
and
I actually have like used that in my head before when I'm like melting about something. I'm like, okay, nobody's dead or pregnant. Like we can deal with this.
that's good.
It's a good gut check.
I think it's like, I think the other one for that is this an inconvenience or is
Yeah.
this trauma?
I would say
That's
the making
that's
of
an
the
easy
Hypocrite
one to
movie
just
was a
apply to
traumatic
most things that are
experience, though.
annoying.
But yeah,
No, I'm talking about
Well, I
day-to-day
think
stuff,
the real question to how I
Usually
deal with all of these things or whatever is more geared to like how much Todd has to absorb. Todd's like,
Well, that's
yeah.
what makes a good
But
partnership.
what did I
too.
tell you
Like,
after I
it's-
made the Hypocrite? I told you I was like,
If I come up with an idea, I'm going to make another film again. Make sure you.
I think I even told you like
no.
lock me in the closet and not feed me.
Right.
Yeah, I think at least I've had the experience, and in the Hypocrite was kind of different because it was such a charged subject. So everybody involved with the film was also really charged and insecure. Like just because I was asking everybody that was a part of the film, be it the production company, the sponsors, the other athletes, to like publicly call yourself a hypocrite, like to the world. Like that's a lot to ask. So I think that was just like an emotionally charged one. But at least I know now the process of like, you're going to have a time, and it's likely going to continue after the project is done and released, where you absolutely hate what you've made. You hate it. You hate yourself. You think you're horrible. You think it's horrible. And so I at least know now that like that will end. That will change. But to your point of loneliness, it's also weird when we're making all this stuff for the internet, because a lot of times there's so much buildup, even for a short 4-minute film like Blue Hour. There's so much buildup. You work for hours, people don't even know, like I'm behind the scenes, like negotiating music contracts with like Sony and like there's so much going on. And then at some point you just sit alone in your house and push a button on a computer, and then that's it. And then you just sit there and like hope the view count goes up. Like it's a very like anticlimactic experience that I've now prepared myself for. Like the first movie I did was Snow Pony, about like being new at snowmobiling and snow, and I think I've kind of enrolled you in like all of my projects somehow, Griffin. Yeah,
it always sounds
but
like a fun time. We're like,
that one I released during COVID, so like that was it was my first time ever doing it. It was like the most anticlimactic because I didn't even ever premiere it to like a real audience. But I don't know. I just I know that making things you care about is a roller coaster, and so you just at some point need to like hang on and get through it. And even when I was at like lowest low making the Hypocrite, and I mean I was like in full on tears multiple times a day for months, like just literally pulling my hair out. Like
Todd's just like,
Todd
turning
is
the
just
volume up on
like,
the TV.
please get me out of here.
Try to help, but I'm not.
But it was.
always that
I think it was hard
helpful.
for you too, because you also were rooting for me, and you also saw how many challenges I faced, and there was nothing you could do.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think you were so critical in making that work because there were certain versions like early on where it was like, okay, this like story's not even connecting, like hitting the points. So it's cool for me as an outsider to see you take the reins and like
Yeah.
make it work, because in the end, the film makes.
But I
it.
think even at my lowest lows during the Hypocrite, I was able to say like, I know it's not going to be like this forever, and someday I will look back and I will like this film and I will be proud of myself for doing this.
Totally. That kind of brings up another good guest question, and
Ooh,
from Hadley
I
Hammer,
didn't.
but you didn't see that coming. And I feel really bad, Hadley. I accidentally deleted your voice note. I didn't press save. My apologies. But luckily she typed out the question as well. I'm not going to do a Hadley impression, so I'll just read it in my voice. How do you handle the difference in perception of how you're perceived by the industry and public versus how you perceive yourself?
I feel like that's a tough one because I think that I've put together a fairly strong forward-facing brand of being this like really happy, smiley, positive person. And I think like people that know me are like, "Oh my God, you're so cynical and bitchy and like a little pessimistic sometimes." I think a lot of people
Nobody
say
says
that. And I think to me it's hard because I want to be like honest and vulnerable about stuff. And I think you see that in like the projects that I've done recently. But I also don't feel like social media is a place for me to like air my dirty laundry. Like I don't really want people to like go to Instagram to like listen to me complain about my pro skier problems. Like they just want to see where the good pow is and like what skis to buy. And I don't want to like come off as like phony because of that. I think I try to be very real with people I meet in person. Like when we get together in person, I'm going to be the most real person ever, but I'm not going to like put up a bunch of stuff on the internet, like crying about all my problems. I'm going to make a really meaningful, like vulnerable piece about hypocrisy and what I do. But like, I don't know. I just try to like balance it somehow. And I don't know if I do a good job because maybe I think some people could perceive it as kind of like phony, maybe it comes off that way because I'm always like smiling and taking selfies. And then you meet me in a bar and I'm just like, bitching about everything. But still smiling usually while I'm cursing. The smiling is, now you guys know the smiling is just about the turn, smile, turn, smile. It's just in my trained.
I was trained.
Yeah, and I think there is something like unique to that, the space you live in, or we all live in, as far as like this social media persona versus like the highlight reel that's out there all the time versus like what's actually going on. People don't see like what you've had to give up to like get that.
I think nobody realizes. I don't think I even realized when I started out my ski career, like the sacrifices that I was making to do this life.
And do you think you found a good community of women within the industry? I think as you've come up in your career, as it's progressed, it's kind of gone from like, we have like one token female in the ski films on the teams to like the industry really getting behind women and creating this space for that. And at the same time, has that community grown for you and like been there?
I mean,
for that,
I think I'm lucky
support?
because I was in the era where that changed a lot, where I did get to do a lot of stuff with groups of women. I think it's still hard for women in the industry. I think we're still pitted against each other in kind of a weird way. So sometimes it makes the dynamic weird where with like Hadley and McKenna, two of my very best friends, we've all been in situations where we've been really competitive with each other too. And like, it's hard to like support each other and compete against each other. And obviously dudes deal with that too. All athletes do. But when we're in such like singular sports, but I think having women around me has been like key in my career and being able to have them be the sounding boards. And even one of my big mentors is Elise, and being able to call Elise Sogstead and have her level set with me, even though she's been hard on me in times of my career too, but I think we've all had to get creative with like how we've done our careers. And so it's cool to see. I think it's, to me, actually more interesting to see what we all do next. Because we're all in our late 30s, like my core group of girls that like I was skiing with. And I think that the girls that are coming up behind us they still have work to do for the generation behind them, but every generation gets to step into like a little bit better place, right? Like there's still some work to be done on equal pay and all the different, because like I was almost in the era of like too much, like all women only, which is like also not really what like I love. Like, and where can we just actually just realize that like women have value in this space? Women buy ski equipment, women have purchasing power, like all of these things that like women are heavier than we all think and need real good equipment, like stuff like that. But I think it'll be curious to see what a lot of us do next as we like age. And I notice that like being an aging woman, I feel like being partners with another professional skier who happens to be male, I get like the age thing thrown in my face a little bit more than I feel like Todd does. Even though I'm younger, by the way.
Yeah, I'd say mid-30s, by the way. I don't think you need to say
regardless. But I think that to me, like sometimes it's just a weird phase where I like I'm so committed to my career and I still have things I really want to do, But like, I always had a dream of having a family. Like that was something I always wanted for myself. And I didn't really realize until like a couple years ago that those two dreams were at odds. And now I don't know how to deal with it because like I'm running out of time to have kids, but I still have stuff I want to do in my career. But then like maybe I'm not as valuable anymore just because I said I want to have kids someday, or like then like a sponsor's going to look at me and be like, oh, well, we better get rid of her before she's useless. Like, and nobody actually says that or does that, but it's like kind of this untold thing. And so like, I'm really curious how my core group of women that kind of I came up in the ski industry with, like what we all do next and how we handle those transitions and how we make like, I don't know if I can be a professional skier after having a kid. I know it's not a popular thing to say, but like, I don't know. I travel all the time. I take risk. I don't make that much money. Like that's like the reality. And so I think, I don't know, we all like fought the good fight together for, I feel like the last like 10, 15 years to like make a lot more space in the industry for the girls that are coming up. But we still haven't like tackled some of the issues that like actually have bothered me the most as a woman in my career so far are like more happening now than even when I was younger.
And I think, to all of your credit, I was speaking to Rachel Burks about this recently, and it's like you're climbing this mountain and you like carve out this space on the ledge. And I feel like your generation of pro skiers, your peers have, like all the women have done this great job of like carving out more space on the ledge. You're like, okay, I got my spot.
Yeah.
Like, let's clear off a little bit more. And so somebody else can come up, and like that will hopefully just continue amongst like the next generation. When you look at like the blondes and like that crew of women, like it's been pretty cool to see just in our careers, like that space change so much. Even there's still obviously a ton to be done, but there is like credit due to.
But I also think it's awesome. We all, man, woman, whatever, we've all carved out like a space on the ledge, and there still is only so much room on the ledge. Like it's not a big flat top mountain, right? Like it's not the top of Palisades. There's still some like in and out that happens. Like I don't want to like glorify like where we've gotten there, just because I think it's getting better. It still has room to go. And I like, yes, I have been the token, a lot of my early career, I was the token, and then I became one of many, and I've seen it change a lot. And I had so much gratitude for like the female skiers that came before me, a lot before me, or even like a little before me, like Burks, she was paved the way with pretty faces, and that was like early in my career and helped a lot. But like, there's still, I don't know, it's just, there's still some big unanswered questions for me. Like, even if I look back on my career of like, would I, like if somebody sat me down when I was 23 and said, hey, I understand you want to follow your dreams. Just so you know that like following a life of being a professional skier, professional athlete might mean you don't get to have kids. I don't know if I would have done it. And nobody said anything like that to me. Nobody told me to freeze my eggs in my 20s. Not that I could have afforded it, but like those are the conversations that like as a woman I'm dealing with now that like are kind of heavy. And like it's almost been the part of my career where being a woman actually feels the most like intense or weird or something, than even more than when I was like 23 and not getting paid anything or whatever, being called a model while everybody else was called athletes or whatever,
No, 100%. And I think the like, but I don't think you give yourselves enough credit for like, you're not like at the top. It's not perfect, but like
for sure,
a lot of ground has been gained.
The industry has definitely changed. I still feel like if I go to my sponsors and say, hey, I want a pregnancy protection clause, they're going to look at me, they're going to look at my age, and they're going to, oh, she's going to have a kid and she's not going to be as valuable or whatever. Versus I think maybe that would make me more valuable, but whatever. But that's a huge improvement that at least some brands or even the biggest brands are doing that. Versus I've had contracts in my career that have had clauses that say if I'm unable to ski for a period of 9 months or more that I could be dropped, which doesn't really seem like an ambiguous amount of time, right? And I've had those things pulled out of my contracts over the years. So I think, it's changed a ton. It still has a ways to go, but
are you sure? Just to be clear, that you really think that is a number that is about that? Because
it did not say pregnant. It said 9 months.
As a professional athlete, if you can't do your job, that is, I think that we're in a state in the industry where we don't see someone getting dropped when they have a knee injury or something.
They could have
But
easily
it is
said
part
6
of the
months or
job to
12
have
months.
to do the
Or
job.
I think as a woman, 9 months carries a lot of subtext, but you're right. Could have been an honest
Right.
mistake.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to
Always
think of my
devil's
own
advocate.
contracts, and there is, that's always been something that's been.
Yeah.
I can't think of the
No,
exact
everybody,
number or
a
whatever.
lot of times athletes
but that
have
is something
those
that's built
clauses in their
into it.
contracts. I just don't know. Would be curious to drum up some of our old contracts and see if yours also said 9 months or if yours said something else. But this is my built-in fact checker.
Thankfully, I just think that the state of the industry is that
Anyways,
it's a bad
yeah.
look for someone to drop someone when they get injured, or I think clearly
Yeah.
also if they got pregnant. But that is one of those things that would be standard in an athlete contract. You don't go to the NBA and get re-signed when you can't play
Totally.
basketball.
But I
That's
think
not
it is something just to show that there's a lot of male athletes that have kids and have had kids for the big chunk of their career, and nobody's ever batted an eyelash about it, right? Like they're still seen as a very valuable asset. And so just making sure that we still see women that way. If a woman chooses to continue her athletic career after she has a kid, I don't even know if like that makes sense in my brain. I don't know. But for me only personally, but I know Kimi Fasani is working really hard on kind of making, can't remember the name of the company she's trying to start, but you know how a lot of companies have like a B Corp stamp to say like they've made a climate pledge.
Yeah.
To have companies have some sort of a stamp, they can say like they are a XYZ company that they agree to support athletes through pregnancy. And I think that goes men and women, right? Like, but yeah, I think it's just interesting how it's like, there's been so much of my career that's been like female empowerment, and it's still like, I feel like after whatever, more than 15 years of a ski career and like empowering women, now I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like the least empowered I've ever felt. Right. And that's weird. But I feel like I should have,
100%.
again, to your point of like, do I feel success in my career? I'm like, God, did I empower women? I hope so. But like, I don't feel that way right this second,
I think when you take a step back, maybe not tomorrow, maybe it's not next year, but like down the line, when you zoom out and look at the ski industry as a whole, there's a lot of progress that has been made. It's for sure not done, but I do think there's been a lot of positive change.
But I also
'Cause
get
of
really
women like
passionate
you.
about the change just in equipment too. Like that, like, and like how the industry views female consumers even. Like it's about more to me than just making sure that female pro skiers get paid enough. It's like, let's make real equipment for women. Like, let's not have women ski on men's skis with women's graphics where we just are essentially lying to women. Like, what? That's not going to work. What relationship has anyone ever had with a woman that works well when you start by lying to them? Like, oh, I wonder why we like can't speak to women with our products. It's like, well, let's stop lying and let's like meet their needs. Like I think that's equally as important to me.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good transition to a little segment we like to call Ski Industry Trivia.
Am I going to be good at
Good
this
to
or
go.
bad?
I need the Jeopardy
Yeah, you do.
soundboard.
Yeah.
I feel like I
sound
could
design
either
guy
be
needs to
really
get
good
on
at
it.
this or really bad.
So you're putting your success
Out
at
of
like a 5.
10? Okay.
Sure.
Out of 100?
Whatever scale you want to use.
We'll find out.
Last year, what was the number one selling flat ski
Globally?
at retail? In the North America or in the US?
It's either the Bent 100 or the Black Pearl. Okay, it is the Black Pearl still. Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding.
Nailed it. Nice work.
That's always one of my favorite facts is that usually I think the Black Pearl has been the number one selling ski. I think if it's global, I think it's Bent 100. I think if it's North America, it's a Black Pearl, and it's been the number one selling ski for years. Yeah.
By a margin.
A woman's ski.
All right. Question number 2. What was the avalanche danger today, and what were
Avalanche
the
danger today was high, with an avalanche warning, which is why we skied the resort. And the problems were persistent slab and wet loose, but I can't believe they didn't actually have wind slab on there too. Did they? They didn't. It was on there yesterday, but it wasn't on there today. Whatever. Wow. It seemed windy. There was probably some wind slabs as well.
A lot of,
it was hot.
Got really hot.
I know that's always debated amongst forecasters, whether you have the storm slab or
But
the
their
wind slab.
persistent was re-added because of the heavy load.
Correct again. Well, the third question was name one of the top 3 selling, or 2 of the top 3 selling skis in the
Okay.
US, and you already got 2 of them. If
The
you can get number
third
3.
top selling ski in the US after Bent and Black Pearl.
Yep.
It's either like some Nordica that I'm not going to know the name of, or is it the Nordica Enforcer, or is it the? It is okay.
Dang, Amy. We can't like so blatantly rip off the
Sorry,
bomb hole.
Hey, that's just the one that the app. That's the sound that the app has. I don't know.
I actually have that noise on the soundboard, but
We should do like unicorn farts or something. Just
again, that was the goal when I started this. Like, can't just obviously rip off the bomb hole.
Skiers trying to be cool, okay?
Story is age of time.
Everyone likes that sound.
More? Oh, and for our listeners, it's a good time to mention that Dome on the Range is brought to you by Crexley Field Goods, world's lightest, most portable solar panels, 4 times more watts per pound, stores down to a quarter of the size. And if you get this question right, we'll send you some Crexley swag. And this question is not for you. It's for
the audience. You guys want to
the
get this
audience.
one, but I still want Crexley swag too.
Yeah, mention or comment on the Instagram post. Who was the first person to ski the 7 summits?
Am I supposed to answer?
No,
Okay.
you're definitely not supposed to answer.
Cut it out.
Cool. So I guess moving on like to your, I don't know, just reflecting on like where you've come from and how your career's progressed. Would you ever measure success? We've talked a bit about it. How do you measure success besides like financially?
Well, if I was measuring success financially, I would be better off having done a different career, even though I am existing and living as a pro skier, and I'm very grateful for that. There's other things you can do that are smarter financial moves, probably. But I think that that's the hardest part about, like, the biggest challenge of what we've decided to do is measuring success. And I think that's the thing, like, when I say I'm still like working on things, like that's what I'm not good at. Like, I'm not good at evaluating my success fairly. Like, I don't talk to myself or see myself in my ski career the way I would talk to McKenna or Hadley or you guys or anyone else. And I think that that's a challenge, because I think there's got to be a couple, has always been kind of my belief, is I think to pursue the life that we've all decided to pursue, we have to have a couple screws loose. Like, you're not going to be like the most level-headed person. You have to have like definitely a heavy side of narcissism and like some screws loose, and like you're going to go for this thing. And when you have this weird mentality that you want to sign up for this kind of life, there's something about you that's innately insatiable. So like, as soon as we like ski one line or get to one peak, like we're looking for the next. Like it's there's always that like relation to like being an addict or something. Like, we're looking for that next thing. And so I think it's really hard for us to sit back and evaluate success, because like as soon as I hit something that feels like a success, I'm already like looking for the next thing or figuring out how to make it last longer, or
the losses sting forever.
And so I think that to be honest, like, I work with a mental sports performance coach, like specifically on this. Like, I came to her and I was like, I know you work with professional athletes that like have these goals of where they want to take their career. And I'm like, how do, like, the brain of an athlete? She works with only female athletes. And so she's like, she knows the brains of athletes. She knows the brains of women. And I'm like, how can you help me inside my brain to like get okay with what I've done in my career? Like, I realize that I'm not necessarily like on the ascension path anymore, right? Like, I still have goals. I still have value. I still have things I want to do and things I bring to the table that like inside I know are unique and again, valuable, but like there's still something inside me that like doesn't actually see it that way. And I know that part of it is because I have the brain that made me choose this life is the brain that keeps me from experiencing the joy and success of this life. And like, that's something I'm just actively working on.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's like so well said. And like, I've never thought about it that
It's
way.
hard. Like, again, I don't want to like complain about the hard parts of like living the dream, but it's like, in some ways we set ourselves up for more failure than success. And so trying to just, at least I think for me, like anytime I'm trying to like adapt a new thought process or way of doing things or moving through things, like acknowledgement is the first step. So like at least acknowledge that maybe I'm not doing a good job at this, and acknowledge some of the why or understand some of the why. But that doesn't mean I'm like sitting here being like, oh, I feel so good about my ski career and I feel super successful and just happy and satisfied. Like it would be nice.
God, that just to
No, but what about
lie in
just-
bed at night and be like, God, I'm awesome.
No, but you got to take some, positive emotion out of things that are just in the process. Like for me, it's quite simple. Like to have the opportunity to like go to these cool spots, be on top of that. I mean, I went through this actually just a little bit yesterday, in the woods in a zone where there was nobody and it was like snowing a little lightly. You could hear the wind in the trees. Like, that was a day of work basically. I mean, but to even have like a moment like that in your day of work, like, I think that's one of the ways to battle that a little bit potentially.
Yeah.
At least that's something that works for me.
Todd's always there to remind me to be grateful for those. I mean, it helps. I feel like you taper that, like, I have just like a super hungry, like driven, like ambitious personality. And sometimes I feel like it is actually really helpful to have Todd's perspective of like why we're actually doing this. Cause I think what's really unique about you, Todd, is just you have this like really just love for skiing and the ability that being a professional skier like enables you to ski things that you wouldn't be able to ski otherwise. And it's very pure.
Well, I appreciate that. But like,
Yeah.
that is true too, like we could be billionaires and I can't hire a helicopter and tell
Yeah.
them to drop me off on that peak.
Yeah.
But I can do that.
But I
Because
think like anything, you get so like hungry in the rat race of it. Sometimes it's hard to remember to see that part of it, which I try. Like this is so cheesy. But this is really did you watch Ted Lasso? So
Parts
you at
of
least
it.
understand the show. It's like whatever, very happy show, positive. Probably a lot of people
Feel
listening to
good.
this have watched Ted Lasso, and it was towards the end of this last season or whatever. The Roy Kent character, the like grumpy, kind of older soccer player, had some quote about wishing, or some line, like some in his character line was about wishing that he had just actually enjoyed his career more while it was happening, rather than being so focused on being the best. And so it like for some reason me watching Ted Lasso, I'm like crying. This like really like struck
Like
me
crying, yeah.
because I think I've a lot of my career I am just kind of so aggressive in trying to like make sure I'm getting to the next step, make sure the career lasts. Like I'm just always so hungry. Like, and I feel like I'm clawing always like up, and I don't even know where I'm going. I'm just like clawing up this ladder, bloody knuckles, never stopping. And like, I feel like I'm trying to not do that as much. And because you go on these beautiful trips and you're in these beautiful mountains where you're somewhere nobody's stood and you have these amazing opportunities that no one gets to have. And I would always find myself being just like destroyed if like the ski conditions weren't good enough for me to ski well, or so bent out of shape because I tomahawked and I had a concussion and I basically couldn't ski the rest of the trip or whatever. Just getting so wrapped up in the deliverables and the performance of like not being able to hit what I thought I could, that I would just basically be miserable because I was trying so hard to just make something happen that wasn't, whether it was conditions, dynamics, my body, the fact that I almost died in a bunch of avalanches and I get really scared in the mountain, whatever it is, like, and I would just hate what I was doing because I wasn't performing the way I wanted to. And so I have been trying to be like better about that. I don't think I'm like totally nailing it, but like I had a trip to Norway last year where it was the worst skiing of my life. Just days and days and days of rain and unskiable conditions. But I still like essentially, like I think Todd can vouch for this, like I kind of had fun. I was like, you know what? It's beautiful. It's a different experience. I didn't know I could ski tour in the rain for 8 hours. I did. Like I
That's a
think it's
success.
just something that's like
Yeah.
I'm still working through that. Like there's good days and bad days on that. Yeah.
As there is everywhere. All right, gonna move on to a section that we
Straight to
call
the
straight to
dome.
the dome. Rapid fire-ish questions.
Okay. So, first question, Amy, is what is Seth Morrison doing right now?
Skiing in Chamonix, probably.
Could be. I
Right?
don't know.
Low angle pow in the trees in Chamonix.
I hope so.
Everybody has theories.
That's
I
right.
figure if we throw this question out enough, maybe one day he will appear in the garage or in the dome.
That would be cool.
All right. Fuck, marry, kill. Snowbird, Jackson, Whistler. And so the way this works, you get to ski one in perfect conditions once. You have to ski one every single day under average conditions. And one you never have to ski again.
Out of Snowbird, Jackson, and
Should we do Palisades?
Ooh, that'd be good, except for I kind of want to hear answer with these three.
Snowbird, Jackson, Whistler.
Snowbird, Jackson, Whistler. Fuck, marry, kill. Well, it's kind of hard because I've never really skied Whistler.
Okay,
maybe swap that for Palisades then. We're keeping Snowbird and Jackson.
though.
I would marry Palisades, obviously, because I'm already married to them.
Yes.
That's easy.
Contractually obligated to say that, but I believe you.
She does love it.
True, contractually obligated, but it's just true. I just ski better there because I know it. I'm comfortable. I don't know. It's hard because I love and hate Snowbird and Jackson. So one I never have to ski again, and one I
Get to ski perfect
Get to
conditions
ski in
by
the-
yourself.
perfect conditions by myself. I guess I would fuck Jackson and I'd kill Snowbird. Because Jackson's
There's no
more
right answer.
Jackson's more unlikely to ever get in perfect conditions by yourself.
Yeah, you're gonna
It's like harder there or
hit up the
something.
Snowbird marketing department for tickets, and be like, nah.
All right. So 30-degree pow slope weapon of choice: skis, sled,
Snowboard, or pow surf.
30-degree slope?
Correct.
Like a true 30-degree slope?
Yes.
No, I hate 30 degrees.
Well, a lot of people say like, "Oh, it's 30 degrees." I'm
A
like,
mellow
that's
slope.
not like very mellow enough where it's pretty schnoodly if you're skiing.
Yes.
Sled for sure. I'm just now good enough at snowmobiling where I can have fun in POW on a 30-degree slope without it being like a problem for Todd and him having to dig me out. every 5
You do
minutes.
great.
You're doing great. You're doing great. All right. What's better fuel, love or spite? So you're at the top of a line trying to do something. Do you want the person encouraging you, saying you're the best, or somebody saying, nah, you don't got this?
Love for sure. I don't do well in spite conditions. Or like I don't do well in moments of judgment. I do much better in moments of like performance.
Okay. Let's see. You have one person to ski with for the rest of your life. Who are you choosing? And you cannot say your wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other.
Todd.
I can't say Todd.
That's true. I don't think you. I don't know. I don't know if I would be a
I
choice anyways.
don't like skiing resort with you, Todd, actually. But
No.
we're getting married, so we are going to ski together for the rest of our lives.
That wasn't the question.
One person to ski with. I mean, my dad. Like
Aw.
he's always been my favorite ski partner. And he always will be.
They ski super similar also, which is funny when you're behind both of them. I like that.
We do. We like to ski the same stuff.
What part of your success? What part of your success do you attribute to luck, and what part do you attribute to hard work?
Like in like a ratio.
Yes, percentage wise.
God, I think for me it's got to be like 70% hard work, 30% luck. I think I've been much more in the work category than the lucky category.
I would agree.
I could use some luck actually if anybody wants to send some. I'm ready for the lucky phase of my career. I'm manifesting it.
What pieces of advice would you give your younger self?
What did I tell myself earlier? Freeze my eggs.
Yeah, but that wasn't even okay.
I don't know if
Correct-
that's like the emotional. Like,
No, but
answer
also
we're-
correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that was that seems much more common right now than it was even a decade ago. Is that true?
Yeah, maybe. Advice I'd give younger self would probably be along the lines of like mellow out and enjoy it a little more.
Good advice.
That's about it.
That's about
I
it.
know. Where can people find you, Amie?
Oh my God, on Instagram at Amie Ski, but yeah, just on the internets. There's not any other Amie Engerbretsons out there, so
I notice you have not updated your website since about 2022.
yeah, that was the last time I like had a life. I put hypocrite on there.
Now it's on there.
It's my website needs some work.
I
for
think
sure.
websites are going to come back. Mine also doesn't exist right now, but I think that would be a way cooler place to like go than someone's Instagram account personally. But
I have a website, amieski.com at amieski. I've got some stuff on YouTube, but if you Google me, like the cool stuff comes up. The hypocrite, boots over brim.
not if it's on Vimeo, by the way. That does not come up in a search. I learned
It
recently.
doesn't. Well, I don't have that much cool stuff on Vimeo, unfortunately. But
Amie, thank you so much for sitting down with us. This was
thank you for having me in
so
the
fun.
dome.
I know. Can you not wait to go winter camping now?
I think this was a good like intro, as long as like we have all of the Cruxley solar panels, so we can like
Oh, I should.
what's snow glamping? What's the snow
I should mention
glamping?
everything in this tent. The whole production is charged off of solar. That's kind of the big things that Cruxley
That's
does
cool.
well. So all your devices will be
We
charged.
can go snow glamping.
We can snow glamp for
Very
sure.
green, also, I'd say.
Yeah, get the wood burning stove going in this tent. And
Perfect. So we'll be
it'll
warm.
cozy.
We'll be charged.
Yeah, these are just
ready.
the warm up episodes.
Yeah.
We will take it in the field.
Will the plant and antler come?
Anything you need to have a successful camping trip.
Can't wait. Thanks for having me.